Welcome back to the pre-season show on the podcast. I'm joined by Paul tonight to talk everything National League. Paul, how are you doing?
Hello, mate. Good evening. Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to another weekend of pre-season fixtures.
Yeah.
Got the first one out of the way this weekend, or sort of last couple of weekends. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's just a bit naff in it, moment. And I know we said this last week, but these pre-season games, they're just not the same, are they, as the actual league fixtures. But one thing that we will be talking about tonight is, of course, the league fixtures which were announced. We'll assess a few of those fixtures, a few of the run-ins for a few of the teams, and we'll also be looking at the latest transfers. A bit of talk about York City because they've got the ball rolling as well. And then we'll also be talking about the Southend situation very lightly because it's something we've spoke about quite a lot on the podcast. Of course, it's the same. It's just a vicious cycle, isn't it, really? But is that where you want to start? Do you want to start?
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? What's happened?
I mean, they were in court today, weren't they? And Ron Martin's asked for 43 days. Is it 43-day adjournment? And it seems that the ball is in the court of the league now as to what Southend do. Or what they do with Southend, rather, because they've sort of turned around and stipulated that certain things have to be put in place for them to be able to compete next year. And those things aren't certainly in place in the next 43 days. I mean, the bigger concern is whether they're allowed to play in the league and carry on or not. Is you look at their squad, Chris Phillips tweeted out the other day, they got 14 players, 1 goalie, 4 defenders, 2 centre forwards. I think literally if it wasn't for their midfield, they would have the bare 11, and I can't see all of them staying. I don't know what you think, Luke, but there's some good lads in there. And they overachieved last year on the backdrop of what was occurring sort of behind the scenes and off the field. So, listen, I'll speak on behalf of a lot of National League fans. I think it's an absolute disgrace that it's got to this point, that it goes round and round in circles, that Ron Martin, the owner, can't seem to buy a buyer. Does he want to entertain a buyer? Is he trying to run the club into the grounds for his purposes to be able to then get the land, the ground? I don't know, but it's an absolute disgrace that for 3 or 4 months people haven't been paid. Players haven't been paid for 1 or 2 months. There's no water at the training ground because they haven't paid the bill. They're not allowed to train because of embargoes. It's just it's a disgrace, and I don't want to see him go. You don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him go for Southend fans, for the National League, for football. It's outrageous.
Well, it's not like any club, is it? It's a big club with a passionate fan base, and it's just hard to see where any football side. There's been a lot of sides that have gone through this. I know we've got an Oldham fan who's in here right now. He'll know about the previous couple of, for quite a long time with Oldham. We've also had other sides that have obviously gone under, Rushden and Diamonds, never to be seen again. Hereford, although they've reformed, it's took them a very, very long time to get back to the National League North, and they've still not really progressed any further after than what you'd really expect from a club of that stature. You've got Halifax, who are back in the National League. They had to reform. It's not pleasant, and we hope, I think, that something does change drastically. But to be honest, it's something that's been talked about for the past 3 years, to be honest. So in this division, that is. I don't really know too much about it before they came into this division, but it's not pleasant at all. And I do hope, for Southend's fans' sake, that something does change very, very soon. Someone's mentioned Bury as well. Yeah, they're a club. They've just got back to Gig Lane, so congratulations to them. But it's just not a very nice situation, and I really dislike it happening to these former Football League, historical clubs with so much history behind them. They're a side that have been, I think, as high as the Championship in the past. So, it's just not a nice situation, not something that you particularly want to be talking about. I'm thinking of where to play Southend at the moment. At the start of the season with that squad and the size of the club, you're thinking playoffs at least, but the squad's getting torn apart at the moment, and there's nobody coming in. And of course, you mentioned it last week, the players that are going to come in, they're going to be free agents and probably from the lower leagues or Football League rejects. It's very, very hard to talk about. It's very hard to think about the players that are actually going to come into the club at the moment, isn't it? What do you think at the moment with Southend, with the players that they've lost? and of course, it's a very difficult, question this because we have no idea what's going on. But if this current squad competed next season with the players that they've lost, where would you be placing Southend at the moment?
I think they've got to look at surviving right in the National League, because they don't want to be dropping even further if they're already in the financial mire. But yeah, I think they just got to look to survive. I think one is to start the league campaign in a few weeks' time. On paper, the 14 lads, they've got a decent enough, but they're not going to be able to compete in a 40-plus game season and cups and God knows what else in the level that they are in the National League. It's just not possible. So, and like you said, and like we touched on just now and last week, who they get in is going to be, well, you stick your finger in the air and see, because they can't sign anyone. They're going to be free agents. Are they going to be able to pay anyone? Is anyone actually going to want to play for them? Listen, the whole thing is an utter mess, and I just feel so sorry for them. Yeah. The one thing is if they can start the league, I think they're going to struggle. They're going to be in that bottom 4, 5, 6, 7 potentially. It may help the likes of Wealdstone, Maidenhead, Oxford City, because it may be one less team to sort of worry about as we stand at the moment, unless a miracle changes and they get a flux of investment and money. They're going to struggle big time. And I think they've just got to survive in the National League. They've got to survive as a club first and foremost, and secondly, then survive in the league.
Well, we talk about the league being so open this season. And of course, it is a very open league. It's a lot more open than last season. And sides like Southend, who are, on the top of an iceberg at the moment, the way that they're set up and stuff, they're a side that are going to easily drop down into that relegation zone and be flirting with the relegation places. Because I look at sides that when I'm drawing up with predictions, there's a few sides down there that I think are going to struggle this season. A lot of big clubs as well, I think, who would not be happy with the prediction. But Southend at the moment are probably one of them. The way that they're playing, the way that they're setting up, it just doesn't really, excite me. I don't know if that's the correct word, to be honest, because I think they just want a club at the moment. But we'll move on. We'll have a look at the live chat, and then we'll move on to the main part of tonight's podcast. So, for those who are watching, please like, and if you're a supporter from the likes of Kidderminster, Hartlepool, Rochdale, Fylde, Ebbsfleet, and Oxford. I can't believe I've just done that off the top of my head. If you're one of those supporters, then please subscribe to the channel. This is the home of National League football. We cover the National League in depth every single week. Bonus episodes, you name it. We talk about every single club with the National League, and I bring people like Paul on who know what they're talking about to sort of cover my own back, to be honest. But we'll have a look at what people are saying then, and then we'll move on. Right, let me see if I can get it right back to the top then. So we've got first person in the stream is tonight, and it is Luke. All right, lads, welcome to the stream. Hope the Rochdale fans tuned in. Solihull fan, hello, welcome. Keza, Big Paul back on the stream. You're popular on here. Up the shots from an older shot fan. Another donation, thank you very much. £1.99 once again. Bury FC, welcome Joe to the stream. Lloyd's put a Les. I don't think Dorking fan, that's who he supports. I've seen from his profile Chesterfield is his favourites. We've had Aldershot second, very ambitious there. And then Luke's put, what's your thoughts on the Boxing Day, New Year Day fixtures? I'm surprised we ain't playing Hartlepool on Boxing Day, New Year Day. Instead, we are playing York. Yeah, it's interesting that. I know Halifax, we've got Altrincham again, who we had last year. And of course, like Oldham, I think they got Chesterfield, I think, and Rochdale have got Fylde, I believe, which is quite interesting. Someone's put Woking 8th, Dorking 9th. I think he's doing his full predictions for us. We'll have a look at the a few of those fixtures then, and then we'll get into some of the transfers. We'll just share the screen here, and then we should be ready to go. So these are the opening day fixtures. Aldershot versus Oxford. Oxford going to Aldershot for the first game of the season. That's an interesting one, I think. What's your thoughts on that one? I don't need to ask for your prediction or thoughts too much on the game because, of
No, I
course,
mean,
we're doing this later on.
I don't. Any team that's been in the National League that plays a new team, the start of the season's never the best time, right? Aldershot didn't have the best season last year, really, did they? 3 managers. Widrington's going to sort of, I guess, try and stabilise it a little bit. He's made a lot of signings. He's obviously lost a few boys as well. I would not want to be playing a new team in the National League on the opening day of the season. They're going to have their full team, no injuries, suspensions. They're all going to be gunning for it. They're going to be up for it. Oxford City are back in. They're not back in National. They're in the National League for the first time. They are going to be so up for it. And Aldershot's a nice place to go and play in the opening day of the season. Not a bad ground, a good crowd. Aldershot fans are going to be optimistic. A good time for Oxford City to play Aldershot as well. I think Oxford could easily get a result out of that. They're going to be that unknown quantity. They brought Chris Hagan in goal from Ebbsfleet, who's a decent quality goalkeeper in the National League level, sort of mostly in National League South. They've got the lad Tafari Moore, who's the youth lad from England, who's sort of come up from Hendon through St Albans, and good technical wing back. Listen, they've kept their bulk of their team that really did well in the National League South. I could see Oxford City winning it.
Yeah, it'll be a good game to watch, I think, as well. I don't think the two clubs are that far away from each other either. You've also got, we'll have a look at the promoted teams for the opening day. You've got Halifax Bromley, that's a tough match. Gateshead Boreham Wood, bit of a hard one to call as well. Kidderminster have got Woking at home, first game of the season. That's going to be an interesting one. Agborough, I'm sure, will be packed out for that one, I would expect. It's gone off again. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that one? And get this back up.
Well, do you know what? I don't know a lot about Kiddie. Have they made many signings? I don't think they've even made many signings, have they? So they're at the moment they're wholly reliant on their National League North squad. Woking are a tough National League team, aren't they? We know that, Luke, having seen them at home and away. Very, very good manager in Darren Saul. I think they're going to be going for playoffs. Like I said, it's a good time. It's not a good time to play newly promoted sides, but I think Woking are probably going to be a little bit too strong. But we may reassess that in a couple of weeks to see what signings come in for Kiddie. The advantage is Kiddie are at home. They're going to have a big bumper crowd. The only day is really difficult to predict, really, isn't it? Because everyone's so up for it. Everyone's fresh, ready to go. New signings, bolstered squads. But I think Kiddie might be a bit too strong for. Woking will be a bit too strong for Kidderminster. Yeah.
We've also got Maidenhead have got Fylde. So Fylde are back in the National League and they're travelling to Maidenhead. Thoughts on that one?
Listen, I think Maidenhead both teams have got to start the season well and try and get some points on the board because they're both likely to be near that bottom end, I would suggest. Any newly promoted side that's going to be in and around the playoffs have got to have a remarkable sort of season in their first one back. Listen, I know Fylde have been in it before. They've got a bit of cash, haven't they, behind them? That's the benefit. How do Maidenhead deal with losing Aqua? I know you spoke offline regarding him. Listen, if Max Kilman gets sold by Wolves in the transfer window, Maidenhead are £8 million better off. Yeah. Everything could change. But at this time, it's hard to predict that one. But they both got to get points on the board early doors.
I'd agree with that one. We've also got. This was one that excites me. A newly promoted Ebbsfleet back in the National League against Rochdale, who are making their debut at home. If you ever want a game, so nothing against Ebbsfleet, but if you ever want a game, you're coming up against a newly promoted side at your place. Rochdale, the side for me that at first first came down to the division, and I thought they're going to struggle. I think Hartlepool are going to probably be able to adjust better. But that Rochdale side, and I've been assessing it, they've made some I find quite smart signings, not out there signings, if that makes sense. They're not signings that sort of go, whoa, that's an amazing one. Apart from maybe Adam Clayton coming from the higher leagues. But I'd probably describe him as a bit of a journeyman now. But there's a lot of players in that Rochdale squad who, Sinclair was there on loan at Alty, did quite well there. Devante Rodney, he was at Halifax, Stockport. I think he had a spell with another. Was it Fylde? I think he had a loan spell with in the National League before. He's been with another club on loan, I know. In the
they've got Cairo Mitchell as well, haven't they?
Cairo Mitchell.
He did well in National League South with Kings Lynn, but never really got a game at Notts County, understandably, with the centre forward there. Yeah, and he could be a really good National League centre forward if he gets minutes. So I think you're right, Luke. The likes of Rochdale need to come into the league and respect the league.
I think they've done.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The way they've just gone about their business, they haven't made a big song and dance about it. You haven't seen fans all over social media say we're going to piss the league and what's the National League and da-da-da-da-da. You hear it all. They've got to respect the league. They've got to respect the teams they play, be it Oldham or Ebbsfleet or whoever else. And I think they're going to be well placed to do okay. It's really difficult with teams that get demoted because generally they get relegated off the back of instability off the field and everything else. I don't know what Rochdale's situation is, but that doesn't strike me as being that problem. They just haven't been very good for one reason or another. But I think if they come in and respect the league, and you can't do any more than respect it when you're playing a team called Ebbsfleet, who used to be called Gravesend and Northfleet, who were fan owned and who with all due respect to Ebbsfleet, the likes of Wildstone when they came up, Maidenhead, Dorking, like everyone's who are they? Last year we were playing the Salfords this world, and all of a sudden we're playing bloody Ebbsfleet. Listen, as long as everyone respects the National League, they'll be okay. As soon as they start getting too big for their boots, that's when they come unstuck.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I do think Ebbsfleet, they're a side for me that I think they've probably got higher ambitions than just surviving. Maybe the first season, I think that if you could guarantee safety now from an Ebbsfleet point of view, I think they probably would take that. But when I look at that Ebbsfleet squad, Purley, and he's been in the higher leagues. He was playing for Leeds United about a decade ago, and now he's playing for Ebbsfleet. He scored 38 goals last season, and it's not just him. They've got other players. Yes, I know Cisse. I know Eastleigh fans weren't the biggest fan of him, but he's a player that's got EFL experience, which I think is crucial at this level as well. They're not going to be a pushover. Let's put it this way: it's not one where you I think go either way and.
No.
On that prediction, Ebbsfleet will be up for this. They've got the momentum of getting promotion, that boost, and Rochdale, they're back in the National League. Well, not back, but making their debut in the National League. But that's going to be an interesting one closer to the time. And then I think we've got Barnet v Hartlepool, which I think for Hartlepool it's a tough place to go. Barnet, we'll talk a bit more about Barnet in a little while, but. That is a tough place to go in it for a side that's just been relegated. But
huge. I think you sort of were quite right in saying Hartlepool may be better to adjust when they've only been out of the league. Two seasons?
Yeah.
So they know the National League. I know they didn't want to be in the National League when they went up as they go up as champions, didn't they? And
they got playoffs because it was that season.
Playoffs. That's right.
Then top D, won it, and they won on pens.
I mean, I saw them beat Wilson. I think it was 7-0, in that season, and they were by far the best team I saw that year. And I think if they can keep some of the players they've got, and similar to Rochdale, if they just respect where they are, can go about their business, keep their head down. They've just signed the lad from Southend, didn't they, Christopher Ray. I don't know whether there was. Rumours, or is it likely that Josh Umer may go, or one of their other centre forwards, because I think they're quite heavy up top with players. But listen, I don't know too much about how they were last year. They obviously weren't good enough, but I think they'll be okay in the National League.
Yeah. So I think that more or less rounds up the fixtures for the first opening game. Southend Oldham, that if it goes ahead, I hope so. We've got Solihull Eastleigh. Might be an interesting one. Chesterfield Dorking, that's a repeat of last season. The only difference is it's at Chesterfield instead of Dorking this time. We'll have a look then. I know Halifax have quite a tough start, going from Bromley at home to Bournemouth away to then Oldham away. So they are 3 games that are going to test you, and I think after those you can sort of assess where you're at as a club and what your aims are going to be, because they are 3 very, very tough games. Hartlepool then have a northern derby against Gateshead after that, which will be a tough game. Southend then travel to Dagenham, that's a derby. Rochdale, they go from going to Ebbsfleet away, no at home, to going to Oxford City.
Yeah.
And any more of a non-league start than that.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. And then we move on to the next one then, I believe. Fylde have Chesterfield. Yeah, a few good ones. We'll try and get to the Christmas fixtures. So I'm going to have a quick look at that if it actually goes that far. Where are we at now? 3rd of the 10th. Get to the 12th. Right, there we go. These are then New Year's Day or Boxing Day?
What date's that?
Here we go. We're here now. So these are the Boxing Day fixtures, which is obviously the same as New Year's Day. So Dorking have got Oxford. 2 sides from quite similar backgrounds. I can sort of see that. Maidenhead, Wealdstone. You happy with that on Boxing Day?
Yeah, that's who we traditionally have had in the National League. So always get half decent crowds. Haven't got massive fan bases, have we? So nice and local. Both clubs respect each other. The fans respect each other. There's generally not any segregation. So yeah, it's a nice one to have the Christmas. And by Christmas time, both clubs are sort of desperate for the points, really, to try and get as many on the board going into January, February with that sort of hard slog of maybe Tuesday, Saturday. So, yeah, listen, it could be unkinder to us. So we're grateful for Maidenhead. Obviously, Barnet may have been nice, but yeah, we'll settle with Maidenhead.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't understand. Not just Wealdstone Barnet, but Bournemouth Barnet. I know that were last year's, but you look at Chesterfield, they're playing Solihull. Now, Solihull are like Birmingham area, aren't they?
Yeah.
As well. I don't know how they've done it, but I would have thought Solihull would play Kidderminster, and then Chesterfield would probably play like
I think what you've also got to consider, though, all the other, like the EFL and Premier League teams that play on Boxing Day in terms of policing resources and trains and all that sort of thing. So I guess they have to sort of coordinate with the EFL and the Premier League in relation to who plays who. But yeah, it's a little harsh if you're travelling. I mean, Oxford have got to go right the way around the M25 and down into Surrey for Dorking.
The awful motorway, isn't it? Even I know that.
That's not a great journey, to be honest. So listen, they're never going to please everybody. Someone's always going to sit there and go, why can't we play them, or why can't we play them? At the end of the day, we've all got to play each other, haven't we? Home and away. Just Christmas time's quite nice to have that more of a local derby feel and have a few people through the door.
Yeah, I know we have Alton. That's about an hour and 20, something like that. It's an open roof. There's probably ones I prefer to be going to more luxurious grounds on Boxing Day, but we can't complain. Obviously, one that has stayed the same from previous seasons is Woking v Aldershot, a traditional derby nowadays. That'll be, I think, quite a tasty game, as we always expect. York have got Gateshead. That was one last season, but I was expecting York to probably change to maybe Halifax, but Gateshead to have Hartlepool, but obviously it hasn't worked out that way. So we'll move on from fixtures now. We'll talk a bit about the latest transfers that have just come through. Some of the ones that have probably interest me probably the most as well. I want to get your take then. So we've got this one here. We talked a bit about Tafari Moore going to Oxford City. I know you've mentioned it slightly, and him signing for them. We said last week that Oxford needed to get players that knew this division or knew the higher leagues of the football pyramid, so they're more established and they can try establish themselves. I think they have done that in someone that was proven in the league below, was a star for St Albans, but then has made that step up with obviously having that EFL pedigree. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's difficult because he he obviously had a really good grounding at academy level, played at England youth. I think he won the Euro 17s with England. He was one in the team of the tournament. You know, to have that pedigree and then sort of find himself playing in the Isthmian League Premier Division, which, listen, is not a bad standard whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, but to sort of drop to that and then have to sort of consistently perform to go into National League South and then from National League South into the National League. I spoke to the head. I happen to know the Hendon manager, Lee Allenson, and obviously his dad was the manager of St Albans for a period when Tafari played there. You know, and Lee said he's a very, very good technical footballer. Maybe a little bit lightweight for the National League, but as a wing back, I think you could probably get away with that a little bit more. But he said, you know, I'm playing on plastic. Oxford City are having a new surface laid at the moment. So that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Luke, it wasn't brilliant before. So it's going to be a real good upgrade to for the National League. So I think he'll be okay. You know, they're a good technical footballing side. If anyone saw the National League South playoffs when they beat St Albans quite convincingly, they're a good technical side. McEachran in midfield is very good. Very good. To keep him was really key. Getting Chris Haig back in goal, who did so well in the back end of the season, was key. You know, and keeping Josh Parker, the lad up top, who's had EFL experience with the likes of Wycombe Wanderers. I think maybe Colchester, someone like that, or Gillingham. So you know, to have that backbone, I think is hugely important. I think they're going to have to go heavy on the loans market and see where they come with that. Their manager, Ross Jenkins, is an ex-Watford lad, so I don't know whether he's got a tie-in. Justin Merritt, who's a director of football, has got really good connections in the southeast. He's been in non-league a long time. Ex-teammate of my brother's actually at Tame United. So yeah, so I got a little bit of interest in Oxford City because
you know that area, don't you? It's the southern.
Yeah.
If we ever need anything from there, we go to Paul.
Yeah. I mean, the Stones obviously playing a few years in the south, etc. Yeah. So listen, they've done very, very well. Looking forward to them being in the league. It's refreshing to see new teams in it. I think they will struggle. They've just got to get points on the board with whatever they start the season with and go from there.
Yeah, I think it's just about seeing what's to come from them, because I know you like to use this term quite often with sides that just got promoted, unknown quantity, which they are, to be fair. We don't know what to expect. They could do, you know, look at someone like York and try to take after them and how they've established themselves in this division. You know, this season now, the first season, yes, everyone was predicting Dorking to go down. Now, most people are saying higher mid-table for them, lower mid-table, somewhere around there. So maybe they can take after them and hopefully try establish themselves in this division. But for me, when I'm looking at Oxford at the moment, I'm putting them to go down because it's so open, this league. If there's like a couple of clubs that I can sort of put down there who I think, yeah, they're going to be down there. Oxford, we know they're going to be, no matter where they finish, they're going to be in and around the relegation zone, in my opinion. Aldershot, they've done a bit of business as well. They've had to, because Tyler Cornett was announced last week that he left the club, which was a massive loss, in my opinion. We talked about it and about, is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? He has left. He's gone to York. We'll talk a bit about York in a little while. But you've probably lost the best centre-half in the division. I don't know if you'll agree with that or not, but he's definitely up there with one of them. And then you've also lost the likes of Justin Amaluza, who's left the club. And they're being replaced with players that, in my opinion, from the lower leagues that are unproven, from Kings Lynn. So they're very, very, feels like they're relying very heavily on the manager and what the players that he's bringing in. They're clearly putting a lot of trust into him from the players that they've brought in. But it is a gamble at the same time. I don't know what your take is on that, but Laurent Tollar's come from Brighton, 21 goals in under 21 Premier League, I believe, a couple of seasons ago. And then Zane Walker's come from Kings Lynn. What is your take on Aldershot's so far? And is it a gamble, do you feel, with the players they're bringing in?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Again, you know, a couple of weeks to try and invest in that sort of transfer fee that Cordner's commanded. 100 grand was what was sort of touted around. I can't believe it would be that amount of money, but you know, that's the rumor, isn't it? So, you know, if they can reinvest some of that into their squad. But I think you're right, Luke. They started last year with Mark Molesey in charge, who had a very young side. They're doing it again. Yes, Tommy Widrington knows what he's doing in the National League and National League South, or National League North as well with Kings Lynn. So I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah,
Personally, I think they're going to struggle. Because we don't know enough about the lads that are coming in, do we? They might come in and have an absolute blinder and think, we all think, bloody hell, what a decent set of lads that, Widrington's found here. But, Kings Lynn didn't set the world alight 2 seasons ago, didn't come up last year. It's a tough one. I think they're going to struggle. I think you're right. Oxford City are going to struggle. Those 2 teams are going to be down there without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, Maiden are another club that have not really been busy in the window, but they've had a few players that have left the club. Kapeko, I think it is, who's left them to go to Bromley. We had a Maidenhead fan who were joining us and keeping us informed. I think on the other week's show that we did, and he was saying that he was quite a good player, to be fair. So yeah, that's a big loss, I think, for them. And then you've also got Emilio Aqua, who's obviously left, and he was probably one of the standouts, probably the player of the year, I would say, for Maidenhead last season. 13 goals. But we talk about this and how Maidenhead, they're going to go down this season. They are a club that you can never write off to stay up. And I know I say this all the time, but I think they lost Josh Kelly a few seasons ago. Last season it was. And I said, they're definitely going to go down now. They're going to finish bottom. And I'm going to be putting them down there again. I think I'd be foolish not to at least put them down there. And then they've lost a star man again this season. What's going to be interesting to see, can Alan Devonshire find a replacement? And that's what's going to be interesting. And can he sort of find a solution and find a way to survive again this season? Because I'm going to say no, he can't. I think his time's running out now, and I do feel Maidenhead will go down, especially with the league being so open. But I can never write them off, can you? What's your take in last year?
Listen, to lose anyone who's a mainstay in your team, especially the likes of Maidenhead, who don't have big squads and don't have money to burn, and I'm exactly with you, Luke, and I don't think any Maidenhead fan will be saying anything different. We've got to survive. We've got to just stick in the National League. We've got to trust Devonshire. He seems to find these players year on year on year. He makes money for the football club by selling them on. It's got to maybe come to an end at some point. Could it be this season? I think you're right. I think it's more likely to start this season than maybe, going forward, because I don't know, where do they get these players from? Like I said, £8 million for selling Max Kilman. For Wolves sell Max Kilman, they've got that sort of sell-on clause. That may be a game changer, but that's still up in the air. I think I'm with you that the Aldershots, Oxford's, Maidenheads, they're going to be in and around that sort of in that mini league at the bottom.
Yeah,
it's just how well they do against each other. Yeah, Maidenhead, I think they just know what to do in the National League. I think that's the difference. Aldershot don't seem to sort of huff and puff through it. Maidenhead seem to know what to do. Oxford are going to be an unknown quantity. It's a tough one, really tough one.
Between Maidenhead and Aldershot is Aldershot a side that want to be in the Football League. They want to be around the playoffs. Maidenhead, if we ask loads of Maidenhead fans, what do you want the outcome to be of this season? What would be the dream? To survive again. I'd take that. I just want to survive. Aldershot, we said, would you be happy with safety at the end of the season? They'd go, F off. No, we won't want that. We want to, we want to be playoffs. We want to get back to the Football League where we feel we belong. Aldershot fans, they've been complaining, saying we lack ambition. We're never going to get anywhere when we're losing players like Tyler Cordner and just selling them on to other National League rivals. It's not like he's gone into the EFL.
No.
He's a club that can just offer him more money, and that's probably the disappointing thing with Aldershot. We've had another donation, so thank you very, very much. It's a Hartlepool fan, new to the stream. He said, "What's your vid last night about Hartlepool United going to do well this season? I hope you're right." Yeah, that was very early on. I thought I'd give Hartlepool fans a bit of positivity. with them just being relegated. But no, I generally feel that Hartlepool will do okay. I think they'll be in and around the playoffs, to be honest, with a lot of those players that have been in this league and done it in this division in the past, and the additions that you've made as well. We'll talk a bit more in depth about Hartlepool when we come on to our next part of the podcast. What was the other one that we're going to talk about? Yeah, with York City then. Now, this was one of the big topics. Paul, a couple of weeks ago, you were unsure about the Ugler family and their intentions for York City. You said that they were going to splash a load of money at it to sign loads of players, and then it won't come off. They've splashed a lot of money at it. What I will say is they are established National League players that I can guarantee will be successful at York. In the first one, Tyler Cordner, in my opinion, probably alongside Jesse Deborah, maybe a bit biased there, is the best centre-half in this division at this moment in time. And then they've also brought in Callum Howe, who's someone that is so underrated in this division at Solihull. He's one of the best centre-halves in this division without any doubt. Just first, before we talk about the others, what's your thoughts on those two and that pair being a centre-half? And what would your response be to, obviously, what you said the other week about York and them splashing loads of money at it? Do you still stand by that, or you come back to the family?
Yeah, no, not at all. They've gone and got Tyler Cordner. They've gone and got Callum Howe. They've got two good centre-halves. There's no disputing that whatsoever. They're going to need two good centre-halves because I don't think they've got the quality elsewhere. Look at who else they've signed. We talk about Oxford City getting players from lower leagues, Aldershot getting players on. Who else have York signed that you would get excited about in the National League?
Probably it'd be the one that I would, to be fair. It'd be going forward. I know he's getting on now.
They've got to keep him fit. He went to Yeovil last year, hadn't played a game in 2 years. This is his first pre-season in 3 years. There's a footballer in there. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's a footballer in Callum Harriott, keeping him fit, keeping him focused, wanting him to do things. We can all talk a good game. I've got nothing personal against the Uglers. It's just what I saw at Yeovil and what we all saw at Yeovil was all he did was come in and try and be someone like Ted Lasso and chuck a load of players at Mark Cooper and the squad. It became broken and divisive. It was known in those, in press conferences, this was talked about. He didn't help them stay up. They were almost gone anyway, but he didn't help in their survival chances. And what I've got reservations of Matt Ugler is he appears to be one of these people who wants to be a manager. He wants to be a Mark White, right? And he gets involved. Now, is he signing all these players and then picking up someone like Cordner and going, look who we've signed, but 3 or 4 others are bang average? And if he's then starting to get involved, if he gets involved like he did at Yeovil in maybe picking the team or picking the players and coming down to the dressing room, that is not going to wash. And no matter what quality you've got in that changing room, they are not going to perform. And that's my worry for York, is having him in charge and having that. He's quite egotistical. The things he's tweeted out when he was at Yeovil, the things he tweeted out the other day, having a dig at the Yeovil manager. Oh, the manager didn't want him. There's no need for that from owners. Go about your business, be professional, be respectful, and just get on with it. And I just can't see him keeping his mouth shut, and I can just see it going wrong. And I hope they don't. I hope it doesn't. I've got nothing against York City. I've got nothing against Ugler, but just the way he behaved last year and what he seems to be like, I can't see it going anyway. But being a little bit of a shit show, to be honest, at times down up there.
I'm trying to keep an open mind on it because, yes, I have been impressed with the business. So I'm not going to lie. I've been impressed with the business. He looks like he has the correct intentions and this we might disagree with this, but it looks like he has the right intentions. He's talked to the York podcast at the hospital site. He spoke to them. He's given people the time of day. To be fair, in my opinion, he looks invested in the club. I'm not gonna stand by that saying that he's not looking invested.
No, I know I don't disagree with you. But is he too invested? At what point does he Does he just stay as the owner, keep quiet, give them the funding, go and get the players? Is he going too far? Is he getting his own players? Is he choosing who comes in? And how then does he meddle going forward? He may not do any of that, Luke, and they may have a brilliant season. They may get in the players, get promoted. Fair play to them. And people can come back and go, there you are, Franklin, eat your hat, But I just can't see it from... A leopard doesn't change its spots overnight, right?
You have the opinion that once a bad owner, always a bad owner.
Yeah. And believe me, over time, people always revert to type. Now, he can talk a good game. He can tell the York Hospital he's doing this, that, the other. The proof is in the pudding in the next few weeks, months, half season. How long will he stick with the manager? Did he want that manager? These are all questions you got to ask. Fair play to York City for fans for being positive. Fair play to York City for getting Ugler in. Fair play to Ugler for chucking those players up, a bit of money at those players, if that's what is believed. Let's just see how it all settles down and gets on going forward. I can't see it happening.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. But then again, I did put a tweet out the other day and I did say that I don't know why York City fans are getting all hyped up. We haven't signed anyone out there yet. Anyway, day after, Tyler Cordner came in, followed by Callum Howe. So I'm going to keep an open mind. But the problem with York at the moment is defensively, I think that pairs the best two centre-halves. I think defensively, they've probably got the best defence in the league. They've got Stockdale in there, who's obviously behind the scenes as well, I think, doing business there for them. So you've got him, who's a Championship League One standard goalkeeper still. And then you've got Cordner, who can easily play in the Football League. Like I've mentioned, best centre-half in this division, followed by Callum Howe. You've got Duckworth, who's a good right-back. Left back, who is it now? He was at Chesterfield, I think. I don't know if he's still there. I don't want to say Fraser Kerr, I think. I might be wrong.
Oh, possibly. Yeah. Possibly,
and if that is the correct defence, then that is, I think, the best defence in the league at the moment. If that is the defence. But then we look going forward, it starts to get a little bit naff and a bit more lower mid-table, if you get what I mean. Like Kevin Castro, I like the look of that signing. And I think he's got potential, and I think he can produce some spectacular moments, but he's not a consistent star player. And that's something that I do think they need to find. They need to find a number 9 because John Lewis is not a prolific 20-goal season striker. And I know these still rumours. I'm still expecting them to do, sign more players. But that number 9 is a crucial position. If you were York now, I'm not going to actually say on York, but if you were Andrew Dallas now, which club would you be looking at? Would you be looking at York City, Chesterfield, or Oldham? Because Chesterfield, what you've got to think about is, are you definitely going to start? Because there's Will Grigg. Oldham, you're most likely going to start, but you've got competition with the likes of Reed, haven't you, up front as well. And then York, you're guaranteed to start, aren't you? I would say.
Yeah. I can't see him going to York. No. I mean, there was talk today when they were going to the football or a football league team.
Yeah, football league, that's been announced now as well.
I can't remember what club it was.
I just saw that. I saw it in the live chat, actually. Someone mentioned.
Yeah, someone mentioned about, there's a rumour that he could go to football league. He's an excellent footballer. Personally, I probably would, if I was Andrew Dallas, I'd go back to Chesterfield. I mean, I don't know his personal circumstances. And like you said, they've signed Will Grigg. I think they probably both could play in that team. He knows the club. He played a lot. He helped change their fortunes from January onwards when he came in on loan from Solihull. He really helped with that sort of spine of the team that got improved by Paul Cook. I don't know, but then you look at Oldham and you think they want to do something this season. They survived last year and they improved through the season, didn't they? They got used to the league. They respected the league a bit more, I think. They got players in who knew how to play in the league. David Unsworth cleared the decks a little bit and got his own players in. So Oldham could be a really good proposition. Good football, traditional football league club. Great ground, good fan base. I should imagine they've got good training facilities. I wouldn't mind being Andrew Dallas and having those decisions to make. But I would sort of already see him staying at Chesterfield if he doesn't go into the Football League. At the moment, is he contracted to Solihull or is he now being released? I don't know what his situation is.
Dallas at the moment, I think he's still contracted with Solihull, I think.
Solihull, yeah.
Yeah, so Tom's come in and said Sabara to be a backup for Dallas, and I think you don't have Sabara as a backup. You fit them both in the team, to be honest. They're too good. Mr. Luke said, obviously, Jesse Dedler is getting a rumoured with, yeah, he's off, to be honest. And then, obviously, a York fan actually came in and said, any owner's better than Glenn Henderson. Maybe not Ron Martin. But apart from that, no, I think I get what you mean. At the moment, it couldn't really have got, well, it could have got worse if you look at Southend. But, it was only looking like it was going to get better, to be fair. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at York. I'm quite intrigued and excited to see, what they're going to be capable of this season.
I think that's the crux of it with York is that intrigue, because Ugler's come in, thrown a bit of money off the back of Henderson not being great, and they were very indifferent last year. A bit of a sleeping giant in that league. I think you're right. It's the intrigue as to what happens going forward.
Yeah. Tom's actually mentioned something which is quite interesting. So he said not contracted, but he's not 24 till the 22nd. So a fee will be required.
Right.
So maybe they're waiting until the 22nd. I would maybe, if they're trying to be tight, whoever it is who are wanting to sign him, which I think's most clubs, to be honest. But shout out to Joe, because I forgot to shout it out earlier. The other week when we were going through all the players, obviously we were using his site, I think. So if you want to give him a follow on Twitter, all his stuff's there. I don't know how people like you and Tom Williams and Off the Line blog keep up to date with everything. But yeah, thank you for helping us out with that one. We'll move on then to what I was planning on doing. If I can just get it up here without it crashing. Share screen. There we go. We're going to do a tier list and we're going to rank everyone's business so far. So we've got no comment, which is ones that you can't really judge what they've done so far. I don't mean it's bad business. It just means you can't really judge it. Poor, which means none of the signings have really impressed us. Okay, average, basically. Good business and then quality. So we start things off with... Let's start things off with... So we get the ones that we know are going to be no comments first.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be
Southend. Yeah.
It's going to be Southend, isn't it? Without doubt.
Would there be anyone else? Maybe
Kidderminster.
They've made one or two, to be fair. Yeah. I've got a placement for them. I think everyone else, you can probably comment on it, to be honest.
Yeah, you could easily.
Yeah. So we'll start things off then. So Southend, it's no comment. There's nothing we can really talk about. They've just lost a load of players. So it's not really fair to put them in poor because you can't really judge it. So we start things off with Wealdstone then. Now, they've recently just started, haven't they? They've brought in Tavan Campbell, who I think is going to go either way. I think Rochdale and Halifax fans probably aren't the biggest fans of him. Aldershot fans, I think, liked him. I thought that's what I got the impression. He were scoring a few goals for them towards the end of the season, and then also Woking fans, I think, also liked him as well. What's your thoughts on Wealdstone's business then as a whole, and the players that they've lost weighing up to the players they've brought in?
Well, I mean, they obviously lost Sam Howes in the week or last week, 2 weeks ago, to Leyton Orient. He wanted full-time football. We got him from Horsham, which is in the Ryman's League. Had an excellent season with us, got capped with the England C team. And, I think for the management to get a fee for him, bear in mind we had him for a season and got him from a lower league, is excellent bit of business. I don't know what they got for him. It's undisclosed, but, it's going to be in the thousands, so it's going to help the football club. The big thing for him, I mean, you look at it here, where would they sit? I think that for you got to put it in context for what Wealdstone have done, getting Tavan Campbell and getting Charlie Barker on a permanent after being on loan from Charlton, to me is good business. They were two areas that we needed to keep Barker, because there was that talk from the end of last season, and we needed a centre forward. Now to go and get someone like Tavan Campbell who can score goals in this league, they can score goals in this league. I think it's good business, but they're going to need to do more, if that makes sense, Luke.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you mean. Like when I'm picking, I don't know what that is, but let me just sort this out a second. But there we go. That's it. But yeah, it's going to be, when I look at Wealdstone, at the moment, and this is me trying to not be any bias just because you're here or anything, honestly, I'm putting them in that relegation scrap at the moment. I don't want to announce my predictions, but when I look at the clubs down there, are they going to fall off? That's going to be the question. Can they keep those standards of last season up? I know you've mentioned you'd bite my hand off if I could offer you safety once again now. So where would you put them then?
What, on this chart?
Yeah.
As I say, it's okay because they haven't done enough. I say it's good business what they've done, but we're going to have to go and find a goalkeeper. Do we get someone from the EFL? It's been mooted that there's cut 2 or 3 different loan opportunities. We'll see how that comes about. We've had lads on trial that have played in the National League and Football League. See what it's been okay. It's going to happen in the next couple of weeks when we all the sort of picking up the bits and pieces. You can be reassessed then whether it's going to drop to poor or go back to go up to good. But it's been okay for now.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the live chat quickly. Up the Sherman, we've got an Halifax fan in here. Always nice to see the Halifax fans tuning in. We've also got Wrexham fan. They just can't get away. Wrexham and Notts County fans, I'm not complaining. Thank you for tuning in still. I know that you've gained an interest in the National League now, so it's good to see that you are still tuning in from Argentina, America, wherever you are currently at. And then the Halifax fan said, Tav Campbell has proved he can bag at this level. Would have liked him back at the Share. I disagree with you on that one. We've got all Halifax fans are in now, but I disagree with you on that one. I remember him scoring a screamer against Notts County, but apart from that, I thought he was a bit lightweight. But then again, he was quite young at the time. Maybe he's bulked up a bit since then. And we've had FCHT on top. Let's hope so. Playoffs or winning the league, whatever Halifax fans are hoping this season. And then we've had an Oldham fan who's come in and said, come on, Oldham. We'll move on then. Let's go to Fylde then. Like, the signings that they've made, Guldo Tamara, I think, is an astute signing. A prolific goal scorer. I think if you hold a shot, I'm surprised the former Kings Lynn manager hasn't gone in for him. Well, I'm guessing he probably has, and Fylde have probably got more financial backing to sign him. But 22 goals last season. The previous season in the National League, with limited games as well. I don't think he played the full season. He got 10 goals for a poor Kings Lynn side. So clearly, he's a striker that's good enough and proven himself in this division. They signed that John Ustabassi. I have literally no idea about him apart from research that I've done. And I believe, was it Chorley I think he's come from? And I think he's progressed there. Where would you be putting them at the moment? Because I'm sort of between okay and good.
Yeah, I would have suggested it's okay. A bit like Wealdstone, isn't it? Having to go and sort of find these little gems that, not spending massive amounts of money. You got to try and get players that want to come and play in the league and prove themselves. I know little about Fylde, if I'm brutally honest, across the board. So, it's got to be okay for them. I think anything where you've only signed 2 players, it's got to be only okay. I don't know what their squad situation was, but you'd like to see 3 or 4 coming through the door, wouldn't you, at this stage? Just to sort of, especially with pre-season starting, just to freshen the squad and to bolster it. So, yeah, I think it's going to be okay for Fylde. Omatoyo, when I saw him play for Kings Lynn against the Stones, always stood out. He was one of those where I wouldn't mind having him in our team. Yeah. We'll see how he goes, playing a few more minutes in the National League and what sort of goal ratio he can get.
Barnet then. The signings that they've made, Zach Brunt, probably one of the star signings, I would say. He was at Boreham Wood and impressed there. You've also got Sam Barrett, who's come from Maidenhead, which I like to use the term smart signing, because he's not, I wouldn't say a signing that you go, wow, that is out there. but he's a player that did well, I thought, at Maidenhead. And I think in a better Barnet side, with the way that Dean Brennan likes to play, I think he'll just progress and become a better player playing in this Barnet side. Ben Corker's come from the higher leagues, established. No, it was at Solihull, I think. I think he was at Solihull and then he signed for.
He was, yeah. He played at Southend for a time in the Football League, and good left back with a lot of quality and a lot of experience.
They seem to be going for that wing back position because Reece Hall-Johnson, who was at Wrexham, then I don't think he was at any other club, but he had a serious injury, and then obviously now he's obviously found another club. So it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts since getting that horrific injury that he had. But he's a good player, good going forward. I remember that goal he scored against Notts County from like outside of the box. He's a very good player going forward and defensively. It's a very Barnet type of signing. Good wing back that can push forward as well. And then you've got like some Callum Stead and Abdoulaye Olowu, I think both from the lower leagues as well. I'd be saying good business. Where would you be putting them?
All day long. Listen, Dean Brennan, I think they were the most improved side in the National League last season. And he's just strengthened again. I don't know whether his budget's improved. Tony Kleanthos has given him sort of license to go out and get a few more sort of players and spend a bit of cash on them. Building on what that stability he put in last year, because they were really unstable the years before, though, weren't they? Manager changes and players. We speak to Trevor Nell, don't we, in our little group, and sort of comments on. He's now got players that want to play for the club, and he's now building on that. And I think that again, it's the numbers that he's brought in. He's managed to get that business in early. I think it's a very good bit of business on a squad, because I think last year they had a good team, but their squad might not have been strong enough. He's now building a squad that's strong enough rather than just a team.
It did feel like, because they were quite short on players, weren't they, throughout the season? It felt like they were overachieving throughout that season. They were with the budget, but with the players, it felt like they were playing out of skin as well. This season, that they've kept the core of that squad together. You've still got a 20-goal season striker in Kabamba. You've still got Harry Pritchard, who was one of the standout players last season. And then you've added to it with quite intelligent signings that are just going to boost the squad depth. So, yeah, I'd say good business, verging on brilliant business as well. Quick look at the live chat then. Ian Birchnell's here. I've just seen that he's popped up as well. We've had, don't forget,
Exploits working.
Gold was shocking at the shit. He wasn't particularly great. He only played like 4 or 5 games, if I remember. It was the COVID season. And then we've had Oliver, who's a Scunthorpe fan, another fan who isn't part of the league anymore but can't get away. We do hope to see you back very, very soon. It's a bit of a shame we can't be covering the likes of Scunthorpe, to be honest. But thoughts on Scunthorpe this season? You are favourites to win that league by a country mile. Cal Roberts. In my Hartlepool video that I did, I've rumoured him to go to Hartlepool, and we thought that was a bit of a crazy signing and a bit too far for him to drop down, because he is a player that's capable of playing in the Football League. Notts fans loved him. And then obviously he went to Aberdeen. It's not really worked out there. But for him to play National League North, if you keep him fit, then you've got probably that he's going to win Player of the Year if you keep him fit. And then you've also got the likes of Danny Elliott, who I think still I'd expect you to win the league. And I say expect that it's the National League North, and it's a very hard league to get out of, but you should get out there first time of asking. What would your thoughts be?
I completely agree. They've gone for it with that new owner. I think the thing that might peg them back is what we've been seeing in social media over the last week or so, in the allegations made by the old owner against the new owner not paying this and not promising that. And, will Scunthorpe be able to play at Glanford Park? I think that's the only thing that's going to hinder them, because on the field, they've really gone for it, haven't they? And given players 2 or 3 year contracts. So I think they're suggesting that they're going to sort of get out of the National League North and get into the National League, and need players for that as well. So, listen, it'd be interesting to see how they get on. They need a bit of stability. Whether that happens this season or not, I don't know. But certainly the quality they've signed is unreal.
Danny Whitehall as well, who came from Eastleigh. Got 11 goals in our division last season. That's mad to think that he's going to be playing in regional football. But yeah, I'd expect them to win promotion, to be honest, next season. Gold Otomaro was National League North top goal scorer last season, by the way. Luke, been here since the start of your show. Tonight. Thank you for tuning in once again, Ian. And then we'll move back to this. So Ebbsfleet now. I'd say okay, because I think they've kept the squad together. A bit like Barnet, but probably not to the same extent. They've signed players from the Football League. You can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep that squad together from last season because they were by far too good for the National League South. But they're sort of adding to that with players from the higher leagues, like obviously Jack Wakely, I think it is. He's come from the higher leagues. David Armour, I think, has come Sutton, I believe. And then you've also got Cisse, who, yes, Eastleigh and Oldham fans have strong opinions about, but he's been in the higher leagues before. He's been in this division. They're the sort of players that I think you need. So I can see what they're trying to do. I think keeping Purley in ultimately boosts them up a place. Would you be saying okay or good?
Yeah. No, I think it's okay. I mean, listen, the likes of Wealdstone, Ebbsfleet, Oxford, those sorts of things, retaining players is as important as signing players sometimes, because they're the sorts of clubs that the bigger clubs and the EFL clubs come and looking at players and go, well, they've had a good season, a good couple of seasons, let's take them and move them on. So to retain the squad that did so well in the National League South was important, because continuity is going to help early on in the season. They can bring loan players in. They've got the January transfer window. I think Dennis Kutrieb, their manager, is he knows what he's doing. I think there'll be a very technical side. You've got Billy Clifford and Josh Wright in midfield, who are good ball players. So bringing in Cisse is probably going to bolster that a little bit. A bit of presence. He can give the ball to the likes of Wright and Clifford to go and play. And massive to keep Polian. Massive,
yes.
Who's to say he was going to score 20, 30 goals in the National League? We can't. But, to keep someone who had such a good season last year was huge for them. So I don't think they're going to, trouble the top half. But I'm not convinced they're going to go down.
No, I think Polian, I think he'll do okay, and he's been in League Two, and I think he got into double figures a few years ago in League Two. Obviously played in the Championship before. I'd expect him to be okay. I think he'll score a fair few goals for them. Oldham, then, they're an interesting one. They have certainly been splashing the cash with the players they've brought in. It's another one where I wouldn't say it's absolutely... It's not Chesterfield standards. I think we've already given it away what we're expecting from Chesterfield. They're not signing your Will Griggs from League One clubs, players that, has proven he can score nearly 30 goals in League One. They're not signing your Tom Naylors from, Championship clubs. But what they are doing, they're making quite intelligent additions again, showing that they can use that money efficiently, and that they are a big team, and that they can bring in big caliber players, but it's not to the same standard as Chesterfield, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
Josh Lundstrom, you basically stolen him from another National League club that obviously probably wanted to get into the playoffs. You've stole him from Altrincham, and then obviously taken him in at Oldham, which is a very, very good move. I think it's only going to get better in that Oldham side. You've got Ward as well. I think he's come from the Football League. You've kept the squad that ended the season well last season. For me, I think Oldham will do well next season with the players. Obviously, another player I didn't even think of, obviously, Kurt Willoughby, has come from Chester, and he got into double figures as well last season. Sean Hobson from Southend, he was part of the strong defence with Lapata last season. Quite smart signing players that are going to do well at this level because they've proven that they can. And you also sign players from the higher leagues as well at the same time. Where would you be putting Oldham?
No, I think you're quite right. Oldham didn't start well last year, did they? And Unsworth came in quite early, picked up loads of more players, and they had a massive squad. And I think what David Unsworth's been able to do is trim the squad, keep the players he wanted to keep, get his own players in, get his own pre-season in, and I think this is this season that we judge them in the National League and think, are they going to be a force or not? Last year was a little bit of a transition for them, coming into that league after many years of being EFL, and it's a shock to the system, as we've discussed earlier. And they found they ended up respecting the league and respecting teams, and because of that, they started to do better. And I think you're right. The players they brought in is a good balance of what's required in the National League, plus a bit of quality from higher up. And I think the big thing is now Dave Unsworth has got his own team.
Yeah,
he's now going to be judged, I believe, by Oldham fans about how well they do, and I think they're going to be up there and challenging without a doubt.
Kez has mentioned that we ain't spent that much, Luke. That's kind of what I was trying to say. I was trying to say that they've proven that they have got the finances by signing Lundstrom from Altrincham, because you've clearly got more money than the side like Altrincham, because you've basically signed him from another National League club. You signed players from the higher leagues, of course. That's what I'm saying when I'm saying you haven't splashed the cash, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll move on then. But where are we putting Oldham then? Good or
good? I think that's a good bit of good business. That's a good mix, good numbers, retention of the players he wanted to retain. I think good business for Oldham, and they've got to be more positive this season than they were last, for sure.
Woking then, they're an interesting one. They've lost one or two players, I know. And we won't talk about Charlie Wakefield because you've got very, very strong opinions about him.
I would suggest that Woking's transfer business is, in my opinion, okay.
Yeah,
they've signed some really good footballers, and then they've signed Charlie Wakefield and Denon Lewis. So it's a real mixed bag. From my point of view. But I really like Darren Sarll as the manager. I think he's very good. Proved himself at the clubs he's been at. That he can improve sides, and I think they're going to be knocking on the door again because they haven't lost too many of their players, and they've sort of brought lads in to strengthen.
We've also got Halifax then. I want to ask that. I know there's one or two Halifax fans who have tuned in. I know a lot of people don't particularly like to speak in the live chat, but if there's many Halifax fans in, you can obviously give your opinions on this. Paul, before I give my opinions, what's your thoughts on Halifax's business? Be as honest as you want.
Do you know what? I genuinely, I don't really know too much about what they've done. I think losing the players they've lost, or going to lose the players, is probably more harmful than the players they've signed. You'll know, definitely sort of have an opinion and know more than that. But losing the likes of Deborah, the fullback, the captain, it's gone out, senior. They've just got to try and build on that momentum they had at the back end of last season. And I don't know what your thoughts are on how that may happen with what they've signed and what they've let go.
It feels like the dross has sort of gone, if you get what I mean. That sort of boost, the positivity of Wembley. The week after when it started getting announced that Senior's left, Gilmore's left, I personally, I've been someone, and people who watch this podcast on a regular basis throughout last season will know that I'm not the biggest. I was never the biggest fan of Gilmore, although I came around to liking him when we were doing well towards the end of last season. So obviously it was a bit of a shame to lose him. It was a massive loss to lose Senior, your club captain, probably one of the best left backs in the division, and then obviously Deborah. It's all but confirmed. I think most people can agree with that. So it's a bit like with the players that you've lost that. Well, you sort of feel like, these replacements really have to kick on. Disarue as well, I think, a big loss, and it just shows where we're at as a club. We're losing a top striker to a fellow National League club that I don't think have obviously clearly got money, but I wouldn't think would be one of the richest clubs in the division with them just being relegated. So it's a bit disappointing with the players that we've lost, because I thought we kept that squad together from last season. And then obviously we brought in more players to give us a bit more depth. I would have been very excited for this season. Now, and I've been saying all along that I think we'll do okay this season. But now I think of the players that we've lost, it's a bit like, I'm not too sure. That being said, Adam Senior signing on, not in my wildest dreams that I think he would return to Halifax. I thought Bolton would take a punt on him, or a side had come in for him and want him more than Halifax, which usually when you want a player more than what Halifax do, you're going to get them. But we managed to retain him, so that's, I think, brilliant business on its own. But then you've also got players that have come in, and I think it's a lot about unknown quantities, players that aren't really proven. I'm not going to pronounce his name, Andrew Olawabi, or I think I might have actually got that correct, actually, but just try to pronounce that. But he's a bit unknown, what we're to expect from him. Ryan Galvin's just come from a side that's been relegated. Obviously, Andrew also has come from a side that's been relegated as well. It doesn't sound nice on the outside, doesn't sound promising, but these players are young players that are obviously still to prove what they can actually do. We've kept the likes of Millie Alley, Golden. I know Oldham fans will still think they're in with a shout to sign him, but it feels like we've kept that kind of the core of the squad together. It's not been as much of a turnover as it was the previous season, but it also feels like the signings haven't really been out there. We signed a lad that's been released from Hereford, which I'm not really know too much about him. I think Boateng's his name. And then we've signed Cosgrove, who was in the Kings Lynn squad and couldn't manage to score 5 goals. So it doesn't sound promising, but what I will say is all these players that we're signing, they're all youngsters. They're all players that I think have got a lot to prove, and that's what I'm hoping for. And I do think Millington will find some sort of formula, and I think we'll be okay. Max Wright, also the Halifax fans just mentioned, return, and if he stays fit, he's a good signing as well. Paul, where would you put us?
Poor? I don't know. Where are you going to put yourself?
I don't want to say poor because I'll probably get a load of trouble from club again. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say anything else, to be honest. We've kept the squad together, but we've just not really made any marquee signs. And maybe we will in the upcoming days. But I'm going to say poor, to be honest. I don't know what the Halifax fans think of that. But yeah, I'd probably put poor, to be honest. Altrincham, I've got one place for them in mind. Where are you?
God, where are you going to put them?
Quality. I think you can't really ask any more of what they've done so far. The only thing I would say is they haven't got a prolific goal scorer up top. Apart from that, I think quality, to be honest. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but every signing stands out to me. Donowa's come from Solihull, did very well there, I thought, when Barrett left to join Wrexham. Obviously, they've kept players, they've kept the squad together, apart from Josh Lundstrom. And then obviously the likes of Jordan Humes left, but I think that was more of a mutual decision. Isaac Marriott's still at the club. I like him. I think he's a player that's just going to come on even more this season. Who else was it? Justin Amaluza signed for the club. Con Clark returning, who was brilliant for them last season. There's nowhere else I can really put them because I think what we've got to think about is what sort of financial backing do these clubs have? And I think Altrincham are going up, overboard with these signings, to be honest, than what you'd expect from someone like Altrincham with the financial resources behind them. We look at Oldham and Chesterfield and we know that they have the ability and the capabilities to sign ridiculous players. But you look at Altrincham and the players that they've brought and I've been very impressed by it. What's your thoughts?
No, I completely agree. Last year they went part-time to full-time, didn't they? And had a real change in squad. It was a real sort of period of transition for them, and they stuck with Parkinson and they got better. Maybe a bit inconsistent really throughout the season, but to keep the squad they kept, to then go and get Con Clark back, who was a real fan's favourite, to identify Donowa and Amaluza.
Yeah.
Just to try and sort of get better at what they've already got. I think if they show more consistency this year, they're going to be up there or thereabouts. But I think you're right. In the context of the size of the club, the fan base, the fact they've transitioned from part-time to full-time in the last season or two, an excellent football club that has run very, very well, got a great fan. But, they're just a good, non-league football club, aren't they? And they're just going from strength to strength.
Clearly care about the fans and, have the best intentions. You know what they're trying to do. They're wanting to progress as a club. They want to one day get into the Football League for the first time. And I think going into the full-time module, the players that they're bringing in, you'd be expecting them to progress from lower mid-table last season, which I thought was a bit of a false position, the way that they finished the season. I think this season they'll be up there, higher mid-table, on the verge of playoffs. Chesterfield, then, is it the same? Do you think one place for them, or
Yeah.
you can't really argue, can you, with it really at the moment?
I think they're going to try. They're going to try and take advantage of Wrexham and Notts County no longer in the league.
Yeah.
And try and take that mantle as being the team to beat, the team that are going to win promotion. I don't think they can try and aim for anything less. They stuck with Paul Cook. It looked really dicey sort of at the turn of the year. He did really well in January and got some great signings in, as I say earlier, sort of improved that spine of the team. And we're unlucky not to get promoted on the day. I think everyone would agree that Wrexham deserved to go up. Notts County deserved to go up over the season. On the day, I think Chesterfield deserves to go, and they've got to try and build. They can't feel sorry for themselves. They can't come back into their training facility and go, "Oh, well, we were there or thereabouts." They've got to think that how positive was the back end of that season, and look at the quality they've signed, and think we are the team to beat. And I can't see much further past them. Maybe Oldham being up there or thereabouts to get promoted.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of when I look at Chesterfield, they're going to be like that haters club, aren't they? If they lose a match, it's like they're going to be the team when you play them at home. We need to beat these. They're the club who've spent all this money. They're the sort of bad guy in this division, if that makes sense. The one spending all this money, which they are doing, and I think, like you said, they're taking advantage of the Wrexhams and the Nottses not going up. I think straight after that final, you had Notts fans and other fans saying it's your time next year, which I would agree with. But the only place Chesterfield should be aiming is the title. Anything below the title is a failure. Of course, if they get promoted through the playoffs, then they won't actually care how you get promoted. But they have to be the strong favourites without any doubt. No one comes close. I won't even say Oldham come close, to be honest. We've been such strong favourites. So, yeah, Chesterfield, they're under a lot of pressure to win this division this season. I think if they don't win the title this season, it's going to be like, when are you actually going to get out of this league? I think it's now or never for Chesterfield winning the title this season. And I think the players of the likes of Will Grigg, who Paul Cook knows previously, Tom Naylor knows previously, signing that lad from Chester, it's gone out of my head his name, but the goalkeeper, sorting that goalkeeper position out, which has been a problem last season.
Lad from, is it Harry
Tyre, something like
Harry Tyra from Everton, isn't it? Yeah, Everton 23s. Yeah,
he was at Chester on loan, wasn't he? There's a lot of players that I think in that Chesterfield side now that are way above this division. So yeah, I think that's probably a fair position for them. We'll move on to Gateshead then. I think what's been good for them is they've kept the squad together from last season. There's not, apart from Conte off the top of my head and Owen Bailey, there hasn't really been any major losses. They've made some quite smart signings. Regan Booty's obviously come from Maidstone. Where would you be putting Gateshead?
I mean, it's okay, isn't it? I mean, like I said, sort of about Wealdstone and Ebbsfleet, they've not signed enough, have they? I think not keeping Camille Conte is a big loss. I know he was only on loan, wasn't he, from Middlesbrough? Getting a chance to go and play for the EFL with Grimsby, any player's going to do it. So they probably were never likely to keep him after having such a good season. But it's a shame they weren't able to. I mean, it's okay business. It's poor, maybe okay. I don't know how you feel, but again, I just don't think they brought in enough to sort of bolster what they've got. Because listen, they had a really good end to the season. We all sort of turned around and went, Gateshead don't deserve to go down. They're too good a footballing team, etc., etc. And got to Wembley, and I don't think it can you can't plaster over the cracks. I think they were a little bit short in areas, and they've not really improved that too much. And like you said, the league is a bit more open, so I can see him struggling. Maybe not going down, but I can see him struggling. I think it's been okay business.
They had a ginormous amount of injuries, which I'll say last season, which was a major factor into them finishing so low. They actually had quite a strong finish. I think they came 14th, wasn't it, last season?
Yeah.
Which was quite good considering the majority of the season where they were. It were almost looking like certain they were going to go down, but no, they pulled it together. They've got a good manager, and they've kept that squad together from last season, which if you keep that squad fully fit, it is a mid-table, higher mid-table side. And they've done that apart from Conte, and then they've added to it with, yes, a lot of unknown players, I'll say. A lot of players that, it's hard to judge at the moment. But Callum Whelan just come through now. He was obviously at Chesterfield. Notts County Chesterfield, it was one of the two. And he was on loan there, so he did well. But Callum Whelan, Wigan Booty, and then Greg Ollie in the midfield. That's one of the best midfields in this division. Obviously, other players as well. They've brought in Ed Francis. He was at Notts County as well. I'd be saying okay business. I won't go overboard, but I don't think it's poor. So I'd be saying okay. Aldershot then. I think they've been busy. That's something I will say, but they've had to be. But it's okay being busy. Anyone can sign a load of players from the lower leagues, but are they quality players? Maybe this will come back to bite us, but I'd be saying, Paul, what's your opinion?
No, I agree. And there's no point sort of going over again, but we spoke about them earlier, didn't we? And yeah, a lot of untried and untested players from the National League. Widrington's gone with a market he knows that over in the Kings Lynn area, Norfolk and Suffolk area. I think you're right. Not keeping Cordner, along with who they've signed, not keeping Amaluzor. I think that's poor business, and they're going to struggle this year.
We'll move on then from Aldershot. Boreham Wood then. They've made one major signing for me that sticks out there, and that's Musa Gaff, who's come from Dagenham. Other players as well. I didn't know I've only just realised that Timmy Abrahams has gone there. He was quite good at Oldham. He was on loan at last season. Angelo Balanta, who on his day can be a quality player, but also very inconsistent. And then Tom Whelan. I always get Callum and Tom Whelan mixed up. One of them played for Chesterfield, one played for Notts County. Where would you be putting them? Would you be okay, good business maybe?
No, I think that's really good business. They've not let anyone go, have they, of note? No. It's Luke Garrard always gets players in. Again, yes, they've got a good sound backing with the academy that they run, with the tie they have with Arsenal and the Arsenal ladies. The quality of the surface down there and improvement in the ground is there to see. So you're always going to attract good players, and Luke Garrard consistently gets good teams out. They're not the most interesting to watch or exciting to watch, but they do a job. And again, he's gone and he's got Angela Balanta back, who's been there previously, so he knows him. A good bit of business. I like Luke Garrard. I think he's an honest guy. Whenever you see him in interviews, he's enthusiastic. He knows what Boreham Wood are as a team and a club, and he year on year, a little bit like Maidenhead, but that slightly higher level, they generate players all the time and find them. So, no, I think that's a good bit of business for them, to be fair.
Bromley then, moving on to them. They're one that I'm struggling where to put them, because they've had one major loss in Omar Sawamya, who was probably one of the best centre-halves in that division. Him, Cordner, Deborah, and then the two Wrexham centre-halves and the Notts County one in Carl Cameron. Apart from them, he was one of the best centre-halves in this division. They've lost him, but they've kept that squad together. Harry Forster as well, he's left the club. I've just realised he went to... Who did he go to? He went to a Football League side. Crawley, was it? Someone like that?
I think it was Crawley.
Yeah, he's a young player. But they have kept the majority of the squad together that did finish in the playoffs last season. But the signings they've made don't really... they don't really stand out to me.
They signed Grant Smith, didn't they? Goalkeeper.
Yeah, Grant Smith's the one who's the goalkeeper from
They've got Grant Smith and Sharman Lowe. So they've got a really good goalkeeping unit.
Well,
They
do you
lost.
think like Cole Capecco always come from Maidenhead? I think it'll work. I think that's a good sign, and I do think he'll just get better at Bromley. But signing players like Josh Pasley from Haverton Waterlooville, he scored 1 goal last season.
Yeah.
Sam Woods didn't really play too much for Barnet. I don't know. What's your opinion?
They're quite a young side, aren't they? And Andy Woodham's very good at giving youngsters a go. It's a really difficult one because they're always there or thereabouts, getting Wembley appearances and knocking on the door of playoff finals and not quite stepping over that line and getting the job done. And you're going to lose players off the back of that because they've been a successful team. I think all the players they've lost, the majority of them have gone to a better team in the league or into the Football League. So you're never going to stop them doing that. He goes about his business quite quietly, Andy Woodman. I think he'll be okay. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they don't sort of set the world alight, do they?
The only thing I will say that when I am being quite negative on Bromley is the fact that what I've got to remember is it's Bromley. They're not Chesterfield, so
no, completely, yeah.
These signings, and yes, they might not stand out now, but end of the season we'll be regretting saying all these, me saying these negative things about them. But who would you be putting in?
I mean, listen, they're in the National League, but they're a non-league team that have come this way, and that you've got to put that into context when you're looking at all these teams. And yes, they're all in the same league, so you've got to look at it as well. But Bromley are a good non-league team that have done so well over the last sort of 10, 20 years. So I would put their business as okay. They've tried to replace the players they've lost. They obviously haven't got bundles of cash to go and do it. I think, Andy Woodman's identified those areas that need to be improved or replaced, and he's gone and got the best players he can, probably for the amount of money he can spend. So I would put it as okay business. It may be proved to be good in the future, like you said.
I think it could be anyway. It could be poor, okay, good business if they win promotion quality. But moving on to Dagenham then. Obviously they've had quite a few major losses, I think. But then obviously as well, they've also brought in players, and of course one of those was Josh Rees. But none of them really stand out to me, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm sort of thinking poor, but I don't know what you're thinking.
I think the whole thing at the moment with Dagenham it's a real transition thing, isn't it? Getting Strevens in. I don't know where the board see them. Just got a new board member that's left Wealdstone, who's I think he's looking to invest in a non-league club. He's just joined the board. Whether that sort of improved investment may come. But yeah, Ben Strevens has got a really tough gig on his hands. He's lost a lot of players, not just in this season, sort of the back end of last season, wasn't it? And what he sort of replaced them with or tried to replace with, again, I think a bit like Aldershot, it's just not quite there, is it? For the level of club that they are, I think it's poor.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought Dagenham have had quite a lot of financial backing behind them, which I think they do.
Yeah, they've got an American owners, haven't they? American backers.
One of the signings, like Josh Rees, he's probably the standout one, but it's not. None of them are amazing, I don't think. And I think with the players that they've lost, Valanta, I think, I know he wasn't prolific, but I think he's a good player. Paul McCallum obviously wasn't there for the second half of the season, but was a good player. Musa Gaff. I think Robinson's left.
Massive, yeah.
So no, I think Paul. I'd agree with you on that. Dorking, then they're a sort of side. It's not really, I don't even think much to transfer business with Dorking. They just have 11 players and a good manager, and you just don't know what to expect from them every season.
You can almost put them in no comment, couldn't you? They've signed a young lad from the issuing leagues who's a bit of a prospect. They've re-signed Tony Craig after his loan deal from Crawley, which is a really good bit of business at the back. 35-year-old, knows how to play and how to defend in that level. But yeah, I suppose you could. I wouldn't say it's poor. I don't know. I don't really have much comment on it.
You don't put poor because you know that it's not them. Like, it's not Dorking fans are disappointed. Halifax, Aldershot, and Dagenham fans are probably a bit kind of disappointed with the business so far. even some of the OK clubs are probably a bit like, come on, what's happening? We need more signings. Dorking fans are just like, nah, we'll be all right. We've got Mark White in charge. And he has kept the squad together. But a lot of the players are like players that you don't really you don't know anything about. But I'd probably put OK. See,
Yeah, you either put it in no comment or OK, don't you? It's one of those, yeah.
Eastleigh then. They've been busy, but they've also had a few outgoings as well. Harper being one of them, and Danny Whitehall leaving to join a club in the league below. But players that they've brought in, Jake Taylor, Paul McCallum, obviously we spoke a bit about him. One that I really find interesting is Enzo Baldwin. He was at Notts County and he was some player on his day. Obviously, he went to Sutton and then dropped down a division. He's a quality player that everyone should be looking out for. You've also got Ryan Clamplin. I think he's come from Colchester. He was a wing back from there. And then obviously Solomon Nawa, I can't even pronounce his name. But it was
Nawa Bouquet. Bouquet,
yeah. He's someone I've heard of as well. I think he's been in this division in the past. I'd be saying good business.
So would I.
Probably just below quality, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, listen, I can never get excited about Eastleigh as a football club, and that's no disrespect to them. It's not my favourite place to go, but they're a bit like Boreham Wood, right? They just sort of get on with it. They do their job. They're effective in the league. They generally have good players. They find good players. They sell them on. They're lucky they've got Stuart Donald back in charge, who had that period at old owner that had the period at Sunderland that it's all over the documentary. He's come back to what he knows. He's more manageable. He'll fund them. So I think in the next few weeks they may even get a few more in possibly. But yeah, I think it's a good bit of business, and they're a good, well-run football club again who haven't got a massive fan base. They improve year on year, and they'll be knocking on the door of the playoffs without a doubt.
Someone's put Halifax is always recruit well. It's keeping them that's the problem. I'd agree with that. Maybe apart from someone put not last year, mate. I kind of agree with that kind of done because obviously, the lack of Sam Minihan never worked out. But I think overall, if you look at Halifax's business since we've reformed, we're quite good, I think, at recruiting players. So I would agree with that. It's just keeping them is the major problem. Moving on to Kidderminster then. We'll quickly have an overview of them. So Jack Lambert's come from the league below. Who was it he was at now? He scored like 12 goals. He's an attacking midfielder. Jerry McDonough, he's come from, I don't even, East, was it Scunthorpe, Eastleigh, Halifax? He's been everywhere. I think
he was at Scunny last year, wasn't he, McDonough?
Yeah,
for a bit.
He was at Eastleigh as well.
Eastleigh, yeah.
He's not. I'd never say he's prolific, to be honest. He's a useful player. He's bulky and he can hold the ball up well, but he's not going to score you 10, 15 goals a season. And then
strikes me, Luke, as one of those lads that everyone will give a punt, give him a go because they think he will be the ones that get the best out of him. He's yet to prove that, I think, on a consistent basis, but. Kiddie might be the platform for him.
Yeah, maybe. I just can't listen. I just don't know how it's going to work out. Someone put Keane. This fans put Keane, Clark. Yeah, I'd agree with Keane. I'd agree with Clark. I'd agree with Minihan. All were marquee failed players like Ali, Mannett at times, and Capello. Yeah, that's what I mean. Capello's come from. Sheffield Wednesday he came from, finding players like that. Ali finding him from Stockport, a reject at Stockport. You've got as well. Stott's come good now. Yeah, Golden from Salford. Moving on then. What was I saying now about Kidderminster? Christian and Chamberlain. He was at Aldershot, and I don't think worked out there. Maybe I'm being a bit negative, but I'd be saying Paul because they've just been promoted. You need to survive in this division. Kidderminster are a side that should be in this division, at least. They should be, I think, going for a promotion in the upcoming years. But the players, I think, so far, haven't really impressed me. I thought, after winning promotion, I thought they were quite fortunate to get promoted in the end. And I do think that they needed to bring in a lot of players. They haven't really done that. And the players that they have brought in seem a bit like... just rejects from other National League clubs. Where would you be putting them?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. They're an established non-league team who've sort of been there, done it, come back down, and then making their way back up again. And I think they should be doing maybe better than they are. But yeah, it's going to be a season of consolidation for them. But I think you're right. There's no one that screams, "Oh yeah, that's great." You know, we hit the National League. We've kept on most of our North squad. Let's boost it with a bit of a National League experience. It's not really there, is it? You know, McDonough, who's been around a few teams, Oxlade-Chamberlain, who didn't play in a particularly exciting or excellent Aldershot side. So yeah, we'll see how they go. Again, a bit, as I say, a bit of an unknown quantity to us all, but I think it's a bit poor unless they pick up in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's not brilliant.
Yeah. Alfie, you've asked about Clark, saying I hope he comes good. I was open for giving him another chance. He was awful last night. Basically cost us the penalty, and he was just having a go at players. So that's all you need to know about Clark. Hartlepool then. I have nowhere. I don't really know where to put them because I like the signings, but they haven't been busy. If that makes sense. They've signed DC and then Weyer, who's come from Southend, who I think they've got in because of how they've been lucky to get hold of him. I don't really know where to put them. Where are you thinking?
It's got to be okay, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, they're quite happy. Is in maybe the squad they've got is going to be good enough to get them out of the league and just sort of supplement it with these lads. And better the devil you know. But you want to get players in with a winning mentality that's not scarred by the fact that they've had a turgid season in League Two and have that habit of losing and not winning. But it's okay. I think, like you said, maybe a couple more if they come through the door that excite us. But I can't see it happening. I don't know whether there's ownership challenges there. But yes, it's okay business. But like you said, I think they'll be okay in the league and they'll be up knocking around the top end.
Maidenhead then. They're another one a bit like Dorking, a bit of a no comment one. They've been busy, but they've been players that they never stand out to you. But they probably will do well in this Maidenhead side. Lewis Kinsella's one that stands out. I don't think he had the best time at Wealdstone, but at Aldershot he was very, very good. Kevin Locker, I think was he at Barnet?
Farnborough. He was at Barnet, I think, back in the day. He played for Farnborough last year in the National League South.
Yeah.
And they weren't a bad side. But listen, again, it's okay, isn't it? But I think you could go back on their signings every pre-season and nothing's going to excite you because a lot of them are unknown. A lot of them aren't proven. A lot of them are being rejected by others. I think it's okay. You know, will they replace Aqua? Have they got the money to do it? Have they got the time to do it? That I think would move it from okay to maybe good business, or okay down to poor. But at the moment, I think it's just okay. They're adequate numbers, decent enough quality for what they need.
Is this a bit harsh, do you think, on Oxford to put them in poor? But they haven't been busy. And I said a couple of weeks ago they need to bring in players that are proven at this level. Haven't they brought in, I think, 2 players, Tafari Moore, who I think is quite a good signing.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper, Hay.
They haven't really flooded the squad with, 5 or 6 established National League players.
I think you're right.
It's difficult because they aren't a big club. They probably don't have much financial backing behind them. But I'm thinking poor me, to be honest with them, because I think if you're wanting to survive in this division, if they want anything more than just enjoying playing the likes of Chesterfield for a season and Oldham, then you've got to be signing players that are established at this level because the current squad is going to keep you in the league. What's your thoughts on it?
No, I think you're right there, Luke. They've had to spend a lot of money on their resurfacing of their pitch. They play on, if people aren't aware, they play on 3G. So they've had to spend money on the supporters experience, the terracing and everything else, because the ground, a little bit like Dorking was, a little bit like Wealdstone, it's more of a football ground than a stadium. Yeah, and that's no disrespect to Oxford City. It's a lovely place to go. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it is poor, isn't it? I think they're going to rely on loan deals, like I said earlier, a bit of it, like Wealdstone have, and maybe Dawkins and even Maidenhead or Woking back in the day have done. So I think they're going to have to go along with that model as well and get some EFL and Premier League lads in to give them that men's football, that experience. I think they're a good team. They're probably a year or two ahead of the curve in terms of their ambitions, and that's always difficult. I mean, what we saw that with Wealdstone, we got in the National League maybe a bit sooner than we probably would have liked, and you've then got to react to it. It's how they react to it. And at the moment, I don't think they've reacted very quickly.
It's getting through the first season, though, isn't it? If they can survive this season, then everyone next season will be thinking you'll be okay again. But I'd just be very, very surprised. I don't know what it is, if it's a gut feeling or what, or if it's me not having much knowledge on them, but I'd be very surprised if Oxford City survive. I'm tipping them to come bottom of the league at the moment, unless they make some astute signings. Where Dorking, when they came up, I don't know if it was because obviously we had the insight with the documentary and Mark White and behind the scenes, but I always felt like they'd survive. Where Oxford, I don't know. I just think they're going to struggle next season.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think you're right. The one advantage they got is they play on plastic. Not many other teams do, but that didn't seem to help Maidstone last year. I think they're going to struggle. Yeah, I think you're right.
Rochdale, then. They've been busy, and I think they've got a good squad now. We talked about this earlier on. Harvey Gilmore's come in from Halifax. A good player and a good team. That's how I'd say. That's what I'd say about him. If Rochdale start well and play well, he'll play well. If they don't, it's a bit of a luxury player. Cairo Mitchell's come from. He was on loan at Eastleigh, but I think he's come from Notts County. He was a bit hit and miss, I think. Cody Johnson, unknown from Stockport, youngster. Carl Ferguson, he was at Altrincham. I think he did okay there. Kawaki, I'm not even going to pronounce that, but he's from the higher leagues. I think he was at Salford for a bit. And then Adam Clayton. I'd be saying good for me.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think they've identified players that can do a job in the National League. They've not just gone and signed players for the sake of it and look at us, we're Rochdale. They've not made big deals around it. They've just gone and done it. Like I said earlier, respect the league, get some points early on, and just build on it. And I think Rochdale look like that's what they're going to do. Time will tell, but they've got that selling point. They were an EFL club. They're slightly bigger than some other clubs in the league, and that may help them going forward. January, etc. But for now, I think it's good business, and they just want to come in and try and do as well as they can to get back out.
Solihull Moors, then they've had a lot of players that we're suspecting are going to leave. Sabarowicz, we're thinking is going to leave. I think Dallas definitely is going to leave. Kelly, maybe. I think he might. I'm not sure with him. They've lost. How's gone. Yeah, Donowa's gone. They're a side that I think could be down there this season, which you wouldn't usually expect. But with the players that they've lost and it being such an open league as well, I think they'll be down there. And the players that they brought in, Connor Hall from lower leagues, maybe, he did well. I think he was at Chorley, I think. Gus Mafuta, I don't get that, to be honest. I don't think it's he didn't really work out at York, so I don't know how it's going to work out at Solihull. You've also got Matty Warburton, who was good at Halifax in the first season, second season very injury prone. Just depends how he settles in. But I'd be saying poor, or would you be saying someone else?
No, I think you're right. And I think that the bigger challenge for them is we saw this sort of downturn in fortunes, decline, transition, change, whatever you want to call it, in January, didn't we, really, when Neil Ardley was, he lost a few players. And I remember Wealdstone playing them back in the last season. I was on the commentary for Wealdstone and did a little bit of research, and you noticed who they'd lost or who replaced them. And it was all lads that were decent in the National League, the likes of Dallas, being replaced with lads that were from the lower leagues. And that's, again, no disrespect to them, but the quality just wasn't there. And it was evident in their performance. They were lucky to have Tom Whelan in midfield, who's now gone to Boreham Wood. He was a real standout. to lose Tom Whelan, who was on loan, to lose Dallas, to lose Howe, that's a massive loss in the spine of the team that was successful over the last couple of years. The bigger loss to me was losing Neil Ardley during pre-season or just before pre-season starts. Bringing in a director of football, and again, I could be wrong here, but bringing in someone who's got no experience of non-league, got plenty of experience of international football and league football, but to bring someone like him in at this stage as a director of football, I hope his black book of contacts is full of names, because Solihull are going to need it. Because at this present time, I can see him getting relegated. It's
cold, but I can see where you're coming from.
But I just saw the decline January through, and then to lose Ardley, who's a really, really good National League manager. They brought in Andrew Wing, who's got experience at this level. He's got experience as a player in the EFL. Again, I just think it's too much of a change across the board, and they've not brought in the quality with it. That's not to say they won't. And a lot of these teams, we could reassess this in 3 weeks just before the season starts, and some may change. But I do genuinely think they're going to be ones that struggle and could go down.
We've had really disappointed. Some Solihull fans said really disappointed with our business. Hall, Morrison, and Newton are all great players, but for a team like us in our state, we need as many players as possible, and we fail. Just put them in Paul. Paul's put, who is a Southend fan, so welcome to the stream, Paul. I'm a Southend fan, and I'm totally divested what's happening at our club. If we're lucky.
Yeah, if we're lucky, we've got 16 players.
If we are lucky, I've got 16 players, if that, and then I think someone's actually said they actually have 13. So I'm generally hope that something does change very, very soon. Seems Solihull Solihull are cutting their cloth and reducing budget, and then we'll move on to the final one now, which is York City, who we've talked a lot about in this stream earlier on. Paul, knowing you'll put them in paw, but the players they've brought in so far, I think the players that they've brought in have been quality players. I'd put them in quality, but have they brought in enough players as well? Like, they brought in 2 marquee players in Cordner and Howe, but apart from that, the players that would probably be in paw and okay.
Yeah.
So would you say?
I think it's okay business. I think it's okay business. I've got a problem with them and the business they've done. I just can't see it working. But I think it's just okay.
That's what good me. So we asked the chat. Someone in the chat say where are you putting York's business so far? Whoever comes in first, we'll put them there. But yeah, I can see why. I can see both sides to it, to be honest, at the moment.
Listen, it's good. It's good in as much as they needed a change up, didn't they? They got rid of the chairman, or the chairman's left. They had a really bad season at times last year. At best, it was inconsistent. Ugler's come in, and as much as I fear for what he's going to do, he's brought a load of enthusiasm and optimism. And you could put it in good. He's signed numbers. I'm just not sure there's enough quality in them. I'm just not convinced.
And then Joe's put Paul, in my opinion. So that's it. That's our rating the transfer business at the moment. Of course, a lot of business is still to be done. For all we know, this is the perfect scenario. Southend get taken over, and we can put them in quality when they start bringing in players. But for now, that's how we are rating the business. We may come back and do it again when the season does begin. But yeah, it's Paul. It's been good to speak to you tonight. It's very difficult at the moment talking about things apart from transfers, and we're trying to predict where everyone's going to finish, because there's nothing else to talk about, is there, at the moment, to be honest? But yeah, Paul, thanks for joining me.
No problem. No, thanks for having me, Luke. It's always good to chew the fat on National League and dissect the clubs and how well they are or aren't doing, in our opinion. Everyone's going to have their own opinions of it, and that's what's great. And it's nice to talk about National League and seeing all these quality. I mean, there's some quality footballers coming into the league, either from the lower leagues or dropping down, and it'll only make it stronger and more exciting for next season.
Yeah, bring on next season. That's all I can say. I'm fed up of these pre-season games. We need some proper football to get back, and we need to be predicting games instead of talking about the latest transfers. But Paul, thank you for joining me once again. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you are new, I know we've had 1 or 2 new people in tonight, into tonight's stream. Please drop us a like and subscribe. Also, if you are a sport, obviously we've had a bit of a changeover with all the clubs leaving, and there's a lot of new clubs in the division. If there's anyone you have group chats, anything, share this podcast about, and hopefully before the start of the season, we're getting them numbers proper high, like it was towards the end of last season, and we'll start talking about the National League. Of course, it's pre-season. There's very little to talk about at the moment, but yeah, thank you for tuning in once again. And without any further ado, bye for now. There we go.